I'm not here. Here I am. Greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News. Where we're, you know what we're doing here. Talking about things, this and that. Talking about climate change, some near-term climate chaos, maybe even human extinction. Who knows? Why is my phone? Sorry if the sound is a little faint on calling. It's because my phone is just acting up right now and giving me a lot of interference. So if I put it too close to me and too close to the computer and the microphone, so I have to kind of put it away a little bit. And now there's no interference. Hey, what's going on? How you guys doing? Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining me. We're live on Rockfin. We're live on Callin. We're live on... Oh, Callin is an app where you can call in to the show. We're live on Twitter. Or whatever the kids are calling it these days. So, good to see you. And, good to see you. We've got some people on... checking us out on the Twitters. All right. Well, let's get into it. Got lots to talk. I made the mistake of just gathering just so many articles and tweets and things to talk about yesterday that I'm kind of overloaded. Oh, by the way, I am going to start yet another channel. Well, okay, I have a few announcements. There's a few things going on. Starting another channel, and I think for right now it's going to be on Twitter. And hopefully maybe they'll let me do the same channel on Rockfin. I don't think it's going to be a YouTube experience because it's going to be geared towards more controversial stuff. So we're talking about what we're talking about here. This channel for now, even though I haven't created an account on Twitter, is going to be called the Octopus Files. And yes, it's a little bit, it's inspired a bit by the documentary, Yes, Fantomas. I've been watching the documentary and it's pretty good. And, but also, I think Charlie Robinson has a book called The Octopus of Global Control or something like that. So it's not it's a name that's been bandied about and kind of referring to the same thing. Anyways, so I think I'll be calling it the Octopus Files. And so I may be doing a show on Twitter, and I will tweet it out on the Black Bear News Twitter channel, and I'll also put a link in the Telegram chat if I'm going to do a broadcast today. Either it's going to start today or tomorrow on another channel on Twitter. By the way, there's a Black Bear News TikTok now. There's no content there. I don't have a link in the chat in the description box yet, but when I post something and there's some content there on the Black Bear News TikTok channel, I will post a link on Twitter and Telegram and elsewhere. Hey, if you guys want to contribute some articles or just talk about what we're talking about on the show. I mean, there's lots of ways to do it. Obviously, you can leave comments on the videos and all that kind of good stuff. But if you want to have back and forths, a good place to do that is the Black Bear News Telegram channel. There's a link in the description box of whatever platform you're listening to. T.me/Black Bear News chat is the channel. So you can go there and post links, or you want to at links to me, you can do that there. Also, if you want to support the show, and you know there are so many people that support the show already, I really appreciate everyone who does support the show. There are links to do that in the description box of all the platforms I'm on. So if you want to know how to do it, that's how to do it. All right, cool. Let's see, where are we at? Where is we at? Okay, let's see. First one I wanted to get to, we are talking about, how Big Oil has said Darren Woods of ExxonMobil, or whatever you want to call it, has said that it's the consumer's fault for not wanting to transition to different. I mean, it's just such a ridiculous. It's the consumer's fault, and yet, there are $7 trillion in subsidies out to fossil fuel corporations, right? Fossil fuel subsidies surged to a record $7 trillion. $7 trillion, which is a lot of dollars. With global temperatures rising to unprecedented levels, subsidies should be scaled back. Scaled back? I love how, how kid gloves he's going with this. They're going with this, the IMF. This is a tweet from the International Monetary Fund. The International Monetary Fund seems to be upset about subsidies. I sense a conflict. $11 million a minute to the fossil fuel companies. Yes. Fresh Air, you are welcome. Excuse me. It's wild. That's a wild number. And when I get into the next story, it's going to make what this guy, Darren Woods, is saying just really incongruous. Right? You guys are getting subsidies to keep your businesses afloat, basically, and to keep the record profits flowing into your coffers, while supporting the industry as a whole, by giving people, the subsidies are there to kind of give people an economic cushion, which underpins, again, the idea that, fossil fuels are really important to keeping, industrial civilization going. And we're not really going to, if you want to talk about phasing out fossil fuels, you're talking about phasing out a good portion of wealth in the world. You're talking about phasing out economies. You're talking about phasing out standards of living, which is fine. There's actually nothing wrong with that. I think people are up in arms around the idea that, like, we might have to, where they're telling us we're going to have to lower our standard of living. Well, to explain very simply, there's a chart that tells you who the chief polluters are in the world, right? And by country, they list the polluters by country, the people that are doing the most damage to the climate, thus adding to the problem of climate change or planetary destruction, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, um, so if you look at that graph and that list of countries, very quickly, what you'll see is that the Western countries with the higher standard of living are doing the most damage, and the countries with the lower standard of living, i.e., what we would call poverty, but not, what is poverty? Is poverty not being able to go drive your 8 cylinder Hemi to Starbucks to get a Frappuccino? Is not being able to do that, is that poverty? Is only having one car in the driveway, is that poverty? Let's define poverty. And sometimes poverty might actually be, a sickness of the mind and spirit, your spiritual well-being, right? There are also a lot of indicators that aren't in that graph of who's polluting the planet the fastest about who's the happiest, right? There's a happiness index, which people think should be used to gauge how well people are doing, not economically, but by, how good they feel about their lives. Anyways, so if you go to the third world countries, those are the ones that are polluting the planet the least. Excuse me. Why? Because they don't have the money, the resources there to burn all the fossil fuels that we do as individuals. In some, and this could get into a lengthy discourse here, but all I'm trying to say is that the more money, i.e., the higher the standard of living, equal the higher destruction of the planet, right? The more destruction of the planet. That's just, it's a math equation or a physics equation. I don't know what you want to call it. It's just, a very direct correlation. There's a very direct correlation between having a lot of money and destroying the planet faster than the people without money. So is it such a bad idea to lower standards of living? Honestly, I think not. Because maybe we should be adjusting the things that make us happy, right? Adjusting to simple things making us happy, or adjusting, having to need all the things to make us happy. And we all know having all the things doesn't necessarily make you happy. Right? Not necessarily. Anyways, I digress. Fury after Exxon chief says public to blame for climate failures. Darren Woods. We'll call him Durwood. Like Tabitha's mom used to call Darren in Bewitched. Tells Fortune consumers not willing to pay for clean energy transition. Tells Fortune consumers not willing to pay for clean energy transition, prompting backlash from climate experts. Well, yeah. The world is off track to meet its climate goals, and the public is to blame. Darren Woods, chief executive of oil giant ExxonMobil, has claimed, prompting a backlash from climate experts. The public is to blame. My God. As the world's largest investor-owned oil company, Exxon is among the top contributors to the global planet heating greenhouse gas emissions, but in an interview published on Tuesday, Woods argued that big oil is not primarily responsible for the climate crisis. Oh no? Tell me more. The dirty secret nobody talks about is how much all this is going to cost and who's willing to pay for it, he told Fortune last week. The people who are generating those emissions need to be aware of and pay the price for generating those emissions. Well, sure. Sure. On some levels, that's true. Wood says the world in some sense that's true, but everything that we absolutely eat, use, consume, drive, it all requires fossil fuels, right? Even if it's electric, even if it's runs on wind power and waves, it's all of that is underpinned by fossil fuels. Anyways, Wood said the world was not on a path to cut its planet heating emissions to net zero by 2050. This is also a bit of doublespeak here. Excuse me. Which scientists say is imperative to avoid catastrophic impacts of global heating. When are the people going to be willing to pay for carbon reduction, says Woods. It's been Exxon's. When are the people going to pay? We're getting $7 trillion in subsidy, but when are the people going to pay? Man, this is a little out of touch, I believe. We have opportunities, but, kind of fits the profile, right? We're not the problem. You're the problem. We have opportunities to make fuels with lower carbon in it, but people aren't willing to spend the money to do that. Wow. But we're willing to charge them the money, right? He doesn't say that part. They're not willing to spend the money, but we really want to charge them the money to do that. So come on, everybody. Experts say Wood's rhetoric is part of a larger attempt to skirt climate accountability. No new major oil and gas infrastructure can be built if the world is to avoid. Interesting. No new major oil and gas infrastructure can be built if the world is to avoid breaching agreed temperature limits. But Exxon, along with other major oil companies currently basking in record profits, is pushing ahead with aggressive fossil fuel expansion plans. Well, again, this is the doublespeak. Angle to what he's doing. They're going forward with making more oil, producing more oil, burning more oil, selling you more oil. And if they transition to lower, whatever it might be, lower carbon fuels, well, they want to sell it to you. They want to be part of that equation. So obviously, it's a win-win, right? For them. It's like a drug lord blaming everyone but not himself for a drug problem, says Gernot Wagner, a climate economist at Columbia Business School. I hate to tell you, but you're the chief executive of the largest publicly traded oil company, and you have influence. You make decisions that matter. Exxon are at the mercy of markets, but they are also shaping them. They are shaping policy. So no, you can't blame the public for the failure to fix climate change. Troves of internal documents and analysis over the past decade established that Exxon knew of the dangers of global heating as far back as the 1970s, but forcefully and successfully worked to sow doubt about the climate crisis and stymie action to clamp down on fossil fuel usage. The revelations have inspired litigation against Exxon across the U.S. Interestingly, let's harken back a little bit to the article that we were talking about from the Centers for Countering Digital Hate last week. And they said it's the doomers' fault for not wanting to switch to renewables. It's deniers' fault. They're spreading, what's equivalent to hate speech or misinformation online because they don't, they're casting doubt over the switching to the renewables. But so what I'm trying to say is they're trying to point at doomers or deniers. They are also trying to blame regular people for having doubts about, what it is that we're supposed to do in the face of climate change. And obviously whether climate change is real or not. That's part of the equation too. But we want to blame you for saying things we don't like or we don't agree with online, and we're trying to counter this digital hate. But is anybody going to hold ExxonMobil accountable? Is anybody going to hold Darren Woods accountable for spreading misinformation or, spewing this hate? Because this is online and this looks like online hate to me. Is anybody going to, take his accounts down, demonetize him, ban him, hold him accountable, put him on trial? Is anybody going to arrest Darren Woods? So what they want to do is try to make it, set up the situation where, you can't have a conversation or an argument or debate about, what it is that we should do, and we won't even go into whether, you might even not think that it's real. That's fine. That's your right to actually think what you want, say what you want. But, that's not what we're talking about. But we're talking about, what we're talking about is doomism. Is the idea that near-term human extinction is at hand, kind of no matter what we do, right? That there are very few avenues out of this predicament. And if there were an avenue, it certainly wouldn't be buying an electric car. If there were an avenue, it certainly wouldn't be, lower carbon fuels. It certainly wouldn't be, airplanes that are nicer to the environment. No, it would be something completely different than what we do now. And what I've prescribed or put forward myself is, we'd all have to revert to some kind of lifestyle that was much more, along the lines of an Amish lifestyle, right? And I know we can have arguments about agriculture and, how the Amish are ruining. I don't want to go into that. I just think that would be, that's the path, right? Something like that is way closer to living in balance with nature and the planet than how we live now. And I think that I'm correct in my assessment of that, right? It's obvious. We can debate the fine points of that, but like in a broad stroke, with a broad brush, if we wanted to do something that was less damaging to the planet or live a lifestyle that was less damaging to the planet, it would be much more in line with something like that. Something like small farming. We can, we could say permaculture, organic, whatever you want to do, but small farming, way less technological gadgets in our lives, way less electricity, way less, way fewer cars, way fewer, roads, buildings, bridges, but, right. Simple living, a simple lifestyle. That would be the path out. That's not what they want you to do. That's not what they want you to do. Tim Bob, hell yes. I'm all for it. And way less, plastics, right? We just taking our entire consumer culture down about, 869 notches. But that's not what they're trying to sell you. They're trying to just sell you exactly what we're doing now, but with a different wrapping on it, right? Calling it something else. Putting a green energy sticker on it and going like, you're good to go. Not so much. All right. Well, that's ridiculous, isn't it? Darren Woods. Yeah. But, let's make sure it's the people's fault. I mean, he's actually kind of, what he's saying is actually in line with that article that I was just referring to, right? Oh, well, it's your fault for not supporting this transition to renewable energies. It's your fault. Oh, you want to say that we're trapped in a industrial civilizational consumer hyper consumer model, and we're effed either way, whatever we do? Oh no, you can't say that. All right. Anyways. Yes, G Generalist, so am I. All right. There's much more to cover here today. I feel like I'm losing ground here. It's all right. Whatever we don't cover today, we'll come back and cover it tomorrow. Anyways, Steve Austin, Bionic Man, puts this up. This thread is not for the faint of heart. Scott Duncan is who he is retweeting. Truly outlandish. Some places in Europe didn't just record their warmest February on record, they went on to beat their warmest March temperature levels. Effectively, everywhere in dark red shading smashed warmest February record, most by large margin. Austria has over 250 years of temperature record, and nothing compares to this, not even close. There it is, smashing. Oops, didn't want to do that. Let's see. Poland temperature anomalies ranged from 3.5 C to 7.5 C warmer than average, setting new warmest February on record. Hungary recorded national average temperature 7 C higher than 1991, 2020, and February 2024. My God. 7 C higher than just 30 years ago, right? This would be considered 7th warmest March for Hungary if these temperatures fell in March. Czechia also sets new national record for warmest February, beating the previous warmest February record by 2 C. It was also record mild in England and Wales. Record's not quite as impressive as Central Europe, but a new warmest February on record nonetheless. They did have their record warmest Februaries, both England and Wales. Germany also set new warmest February on record data. Well, we've been talking, I mean, this is happening in Europe. We've also been talking about, I have another graph of North America also, into Canada, also experiencing record warmth. The higher you go latitudinally. Switzerland joins the cluster of countries with a new warmest February on record. Zooming out, it's not just Europe. Large portions of Arctic, North America, and Northwest Africa have been much warmer than average. Places like Toronto and Canada record the warmest February on record. I was just saying that. Very hot in Western Australia. February helps contribute to the hottest summer on record here. Record heat also in parts of Africa and South America. Okay. Jazz Farm says, snowing batshit in the mountains just an hour from here. We are in the mid-60s. Nothing to see here. Mid-60s, huh? So, sounds pretty mild. All right. Let's keep going. Let's see. Maybe I can find... I think this is it. I'll find the graph I was just talking about in the U.S. Remarkable winter 2023-24 U.S. ranking map. Dark red equals the warmest winter on record. Fargo mean temp was, get this, 14 Fahrenheit for the winter. Plus 14 Fahrenheit. So that's very warm for Fargo, North Dakota. As a whole, the U.S. had its warmest winter on record by a long shot. So you see all the dark red, warmest winter on record, all these places in the north here. Also a few here in the south, along the Rockies here, along the Sierras, also warmest winter on record. But a lot of reds up here in the Northeast. A lot of reds. All through here. North Dakota. Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Illinois. Oh, I'm sorry you can't see it. Thanks. Sorry about that. But look at all these reds up here. If you can see that now. Lots and lots of reds. What happened to the block button on Rockfin? Rockfin, hello, Rockfin people, the people that run Rockfin. Can you bring back the block button? And the Rockfin chats would be ever so helpful. Not sure why it went away. Mostly to get rid of those pesky spammers. All right, let's keep going. It's good. Meme here from Leon Simons. How long till people wake up? He says, hi, I'd like a wake-up call. She says the 9 hottest months on Earth in the last 100,000 years all happened in the last 9 months. Donner, have you guys been keeping up on the Donner Pass? They got just buckets of snow. Homes and businesses around Donner Lake, California, are buried as heavy snow continues. This is from 2 days ago. Now approaching 48 hours of continuous snowfall. I-80 was shut down. I don't know why they didn't shut it down before people got to the top of the hill, but they didn't. And so a bunch of people got stuck up there, which is ridiculous. That don't make no sense. No sense whatsoever. Y'all knew it was coming and you let people just drive up there? Like, why don't you just shut it down? From Matthew Todd, climate change is not something any of us can opt out of. This is a view from Veneto, Italy, with 150 millimeters of rain in less than 48 hours. It's from a few days ago. It's kind of it's pretty, I like this account. Whoever is running, Dr. Professor Gao Campo is retweeting Roger Hallam, who says, you either stop eating meat to stop society from collapsing, or you stop eating meat because society has collapsed. Either way, your days of eating meat are coming to an end. I don't know. I don't know about that one. I think a lot of people are going to eat meat after the after the society collapses. I know that's and I'm being a little bit dark there, but I'm telling you, if people are hungry, they're going to be eating all the meat they can get their hands on from wherever it is. They're not going to be worrying about vegetarian or vegan diets. uh, in economic free fall, they're going to be like, where? I think I saw a dog walking down the road. I know. It's not. Some of you might be like, oh my god, but I'm telling you, people will eat whatever they need to eat when they're hungry. Raccoons, squirrels, rats, birds, whatever. Like, that's what happens. It's just what happens. I was listening to a kind of a gruesome story about a guy who got lost in the desert in Australia. And it took him weeks to make his way out. He survived, but he survived by eating anything that crawled. Anything. Any and everything that crawled. So he was eating a lot of meat. Anyways, wait till this guy hears how destructive vegetable ag is. Touche. And how collapse will dismantle all ag, and how we've been eating meat for 1 million years or so, but agricultural products for only a few thousand years, and how vegetarianism is even more recent, and veganism's barely existed. Yeah, so good answer, sir. Vegetable ag can only happen in a somewhat stable political and or climatic situation. Vegetable haggis, delicious. I'd love some. Thank you. Let's see. I'm trying to get through all the things that I collected yesterday in my madness. Steve Austin, this is a gamble being made for 8 billion plus people. Maybe agriculture keeps up, right? So this is here is the area of time in which we've had stable climate, as I was just saying, that gives us the ability to have massive agriculture, right? When the climate goes, and I mean you've seen that through history, through millennia, through centuries of time. You have famine that's caused by the seasons changed. Boom! All of a sudden, you had 4 years in a row of drought, or no rain, or too much rain, or the temperatures dropped, or the temperatures went up for several years in a row, and all of a sudden you can't grow the things that you were growing before. Everybody's starving. But this is on a more massive scale. Here's the temperature now, zooming up here. So here's where we've been, kind of a steady eddy. I don't know why there's this gap here. I'm not sure what that is. And now a spike. Now we're getting a spike up, and nobody knows where that stops or where that goes. All right. So many things to cover here. I'm doing my best. It's cool. We'll probably keep some things to tomorrow. The end of the world party, oceans, especially the deep oceans, absorb and lose heat more slowly than the atmosphere. Well, that makes sense, right? It took them a long time. It took a long time for the oceans to absorb all that heat, right? Am I right? So how long is it going to take for them to release that heat? Anyways, They absorb and lose heat more slowly than the atmosphere, so an intervention that cools the air would not be able to cool the deep ocean on the same timescale, the authors found. So this is a study that says emergency atmospheric geoengineering wouldn't save the oceans and won't save us, unfortunately. Let's look at this for a moment. It won't save the ocean. Climate change is heating the oceans, altering currents and circulation patterns, responsible for regulating climate on a global scale. If temperatures drop, some of that damage could theoretically be undone. But employing emergency atmospheric geoengineering later this century. Oh, so is this an argument for soon? Sooner than later? I don't know. Later this century, in the face of continuous high carbon emissions, would not be able to reverse changes to ocean currents. A study finds this would. I think it's a little too late at this very moment. I don't know if they're. This is one of those, again, kind of not understanding the "we are here" kind of thing that's going on, which is we are here. You know, places in Europe are breaking temperature, winter temperature records by 7°C. On from a baseline from 30 years ago. That's insane. That's a we are here, not later this century. We're here now. We are here right now. I don't know. Anyways. Anyways, this would critically curtail the intervention's potential effectiveness on human relevant timescales. Oceans, especially the deep oceans, absorb and lose heat more slowly than the atmosphere. So an intervention that cools the air would not be able to cool the deep ocean. On the same timescale, the authors found, stratospheric aerosol injection is commonly discussed. A commonly discussed geoengineering concept based on the idea that adding particles to the stratosphere could help cool the surface of the planet by reflecting sunlight back into space. This could help stabilize the planet if warming exceeds the 1.5 degrees Celsius cap set by the Paris Climate Agreement. Again, not understanding that we are here now. They're like, well, if we go past 1.5, I know that we're at 1.7 now, but hopefully we don't go past 1.5. Make it make sense. Anyways. It's weird. That's just weird. That was a scientific study and a little lost on the actual facts relating the actual. Maybe it's just because it takes a long time to do studies. Maybe the study was done, over the last few years, and they just published it, and now it's all already it's way out of sync with what's actually happening in the real world. So we'll give them that, right? So I'm just reading down through the article a little bit. The upshot is, if we start doing aerosol injections now, we could probably hold the planet together, is what they're trying to say. But if we start in 2080, all bets are off. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's getting a little late. I think it's a little late right now. Yeah, no, I don't either. Chris Denomad, I prefer vacating the area before that happens. Yes, for sure. All right. couple other things to talk about. Smokehouse Creek fire in Texas. Just still ongoing as far as I know. Second largest fire in history at 1.1 million acres. Populations will soon understand what the pyrocene looks and smells like. Well, these are all the fires that are going on. It's February. Second largest in U.S. history. Anyways, this is February. So there's that. Oh, well, it's March now. I know it's March. I know what day it is, but, you know. Started in late February, going into early March, and we are here. Yeah. Oh, this is actually something I might do for the Black Bear News TikTok. Who's going to talk about this? This is kind of wild. High winds have caused tumbleweeds to pile up on this neighborhood in South Jordan, Utah, March 2nd. Anybody see this? It's, shutting down entire roadways. This guy's going to try and plow through, and he gets buried in the tumbleweeds. Straight up buried in the tumbleweeds. Wow. They're highly flammable, and they hurt when they hit you. They have some, they got prickles in them. So they're trying to clear them out. But this definitely looks like kind of a climate change dystopia. We have the high winds just blowing these tumbleweeds everywhere. Kind of like a dust storm, but a tumbleweed storm. Yikes. This does not look fun. All right, we're almost wrapping it up here, guys. See if I have any burning oh, well, last thing I want to cover, I guess, today. and again, going back to the thing we were talking about, the Centers for Countering Digital Hate. They were talking about doomers being, and their misinformation about renewables are messing up our ability to counter climate change by not adopting all the new technology they want to shove down your throat. That is actually not going to solve climate change and probably harm the planet even more. And I think, all the really big brain people that are looking at the situation around climate change and near-term human extinction and the collapse of industrial civilization, and understand that, like, going forward with even more and more and more new technology and new mining and new shipping and new ways to destroy the planet in order to sell you things on the way down. They realize that this is not the way to go. So, they're just trying to find, what the CCDH is trying to do is find new ways to clamp down on what people can talk about, right? Even the doomers. Long-awaited online harm. This is in Canada. Long-awaited online harms bill proposes higher sentences for spreading hate online. Long-awaited. It's finally here. Again, this is kind of what they're when you hear the phrase online hate or something like that, it's what that means is we want to limit your speech because we hate when you guys have free speech. We hate when you guys talk about things and tell everybody what's really going on when we're trying to propagandize you, and we hate that. We hate not being able to propagandize you properly. So we're going to pass a bill that makes it illegal for you to actually talk about the truth or to tell people what's really going on. We're going to, up the jail sentences for people who do this, or start giving people jail sentences for people that do this. And this is actually quite scary. The liberal government is proposing heavier sentences, new regulatory bodies, and changes to a number of laws and new legislation to tackle online abuse, right? Abuse, hate. There's all these hateful people on the internet. And you're one of them. You're one of them. If you're a doomer, you're one of those hateful people. So you're included. As Michael Mann said, you're the equivalent of a QAnon, right? If you're a doomer, you're the equivalent of you might as well just be MAGA. So there's that. And are you? No, you are not. Are you MAGA? You are not MAGA. Anyways, the Online Harms Act, tabled Monday, proposes to police 7 categories of harmful content online. These categories include content used to bully a child and content that encourages a child to harm themselves. Well, no, nobody likes that. And that's certainly not a good thing to do. They also include hate speech, content that incites violence or terrorism. Who knows what that means? Content that sexualizes children or victims of sexual, well, obviously, and sexual content that is posted without consent, obviously. So they're conflating kind of things that people would totally, like, yes, no, we don't want that. But when you stick the hate speech in there and inciting violence or something, right, like that, then it starts to get nebulous. Then it's like, well, anything can incite violence, right? Your silence is equal to hate speech, right? I've even seen people do that. Your silence around an issue, whatever, blank, fill in the blank issue. Your silence is equivalent to hate speech. What? I didn't even say anything. I'm not even talking. You want to talk about the high level, narcissistic gaslighting that's like narcissistic gaslighting like times 100. Well, your silence is telling me everything. I didn't say anything. I'm not even saying anything. Okay, anyways. We cannot tolerate anarchy on the internet. You mean you cannot tolerate people talking about things on the internet? The safety, the mental health, and even the lives of our kids are the most vulnerable at stake. My God. What about the children? The act would amend the criminal code to increase sentences for spreading hate online. And if you don't like renewable energy, you could be one of those people. Legislation also would make it a separate offense to carry out a crime motivated by hate. Well, was this crime just motivated by indifference, right? Were you just committing a crime because, I was just walking down the street and I thought I would go into that drugstore over there and cause some mayhem? Or did you do it because you were filled with hate? We really would need to know so we can give you a worse jail sentence. Anyways. Well, this is frightening, isn't it? And this is why I kind of rejected that article the other day, is because the real intent of it is not, the intent is to shut down debate, not open up debate, or not let people speak freely about what it is that they're feeling and thinking, or et cetera. All right, guys. I think you got the point of that one. Yeah, I agree. Max RJ, the truckers were right. They were. I know people would disagree with me on that one. But that's all I'm gonna say about it. Okay, so we're gonna leave it here. We're gonna leave it here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. I may be starting this new channel that will probably be Twitter specific. For now, if you guys are interested in watching an episode of on this new channel, keep your eyes on the Black Bear News Telegram and or the Black Bear News Twitter. And I'll let you guys know when I'm going to do a broadcast. And if you're interested, you can come hang out. Okay. All right. Peace out, guys.